Have you ever wondered what the pillagers talk about? This is a hostile, highly warlike faction whose goal is to destroy villages and the villagers living there. During a raid on a village, they somehow coordinate their movements. A horn signal means the start of the raid. During the raid, they exchange phrases with each other. And at the end, when the village is completely destroyed, each pillager says phrases in their own language. This fact confirms that they have their own language, which these warriors use to communicate with each other. It differs from the language of the villagers because the villagers discuss village affairs in a calm tone. And at the moment when the pillagers rush into battle with the player under the battle cry, today we will analyze each phrase of the illagers. A classic warrior of the pillager squad is a pillager with a crossbow. He has a standard phrase that he says when the raid is not happening. He can say this phrase when the player approaches him or is in close proximity. Go your own way, or jokes with us are bad. This phrase is said with anger. The player is clearly not wanted here. So, when the raid is over, the pillager has 3 sounds of joy that he uses in case of victory. We did not doubt our victory sounds very arrogantly. The pillagers were confident in their strength. Victory is a shorter phrase that sounds exactly like victory, already without arrogance and without excessive confidence. Here you can use something like "we won," similar to the previous sound, but longer. The pillager with this sound acknowledges the victory of the raid without mocking and without ridiculing the villagers. However, if our player stands up to defend the village, you will immediately start hearing the sounds of the pillagers' pain. This is the sound of them taking damage, and it sounds like this. Painful or help. The pillager takes damage from the player or the iron golem, can call for help or just scream in pain, but most likely he is calling for help, because when a pillager is attacked, his comrades rush to join the battle. If you still kill the pillager, the sound of death is played. You will regret this or something like that, because the pillager did not just die, but grumbled something at the end, most likely wished death to our player. In any case, "you will regret this" is the correct translation, because the pillager is confident that other pillagers will avenge him. The evoker is the most interesting of the illagers due to the sounds. You will find out where he keeps his totem. The evoker simply exists. He pronounces exactly 4 phrases, the first of which sounds like this. This sound is a full analog of the villager's sound. Just the voice is different and said with a different tone. We used to translate this phrase as "good day." It certainly does not carry much meaning. The second phrase, everything according to plan. The evoker says this phrase while looking at the map of the area, which is depicted with wool in the cabinet. In such cabinets, the evokers themselves most often appear. The third sound is said with anger. You can hear the evoker grumbling, so it can be translated as nasty villagers or anything else that can insult the villagers they hate. The last sound, in my opinion, does not translate because it is some kind of spell. Perhaps this is how the evoker repeats spells, muttering them to himself so as not to forget. The evoker can say such phrases quite loudly without muttering, and here is one of those sounds. With this spell, he recolors a sheep from blue to red, and although the recoloring itself is a reference to the game Edge of Empire, we can quite imagine that the evoker says this. The evoker also participates in raids, and if they win, they say 3 phrases. The first of them sounds like this. Who would have thought? This is a rhetorical question. The evoker is not surprised that the villagers could not defend their village. Sound number 2. Expectedly, even more calmly, as if the outcome of the whole battle was clear from the very beginning of the raid. The last sound, said in a questioning tone with mockery and ridicule. The evoker does not doubt his strength. There are sounds that are played when summoning jaws from under the ground or when summoning vexes. Here are these sounds. This is not his voice. Most likely these are the sounds of magic that he casts, raising his hands up. If you still reach the evoker and start hitting him, he will start taking damage with characteristic sounds. Stop, stop, cunning, and at the same time cowardly. The evoker tries to run away from the player under these sounds, tries to retreat to a long-range battle from where it will be convenient to attack the player with jaws. And if you kill him, he doesn't say anything at all in terms of sound there is, but there is no phrase. Just listen. He doesn't say anything, he just spits something out. Interestingly, this sound appears only once at death. And after this sound, the totem of undying falls out. This even creates the impression that the evoker swallowed the totem, but we don't know where he keeps it. At least there are no pockets on his robe. And why then do the other pillagers, when dying, grumble something, and this one spits something out? The vex also belongs to the general army of pillagers, although it is not a living, nosy one. These are rather minions, mini-ghosts. Their phrases can also be translated. The vex makes 3 special sounds. The first sound is like this. Beware, or look behind you, I'm here. After that, he laughs, as if mocking the player and clearly confident that he can win. The second sound sounds like this. You can't hide from me. The vex has already entered the battle. You can hear the sounds of his fast flight, the sounds of evasion, and again laughter. The last sound. You won't hit. This sound is made with a scream at the beginning. The vex has already taken damage from the player. Maybe it even hurts him. If summarized, this is the scream of little demons. If you still kill the vex, you will hear one of 2 sounds. They are generally unpleasant, but I will still include them. Here are the real screams of the expulsion of little devils. Just existing, the vex can make 4 sounds, 2 of which are just the sounds of its flight. There is no voice in them, and the other 2 are like this. They can be translated as guess where we are or find us. This is quite suitable for the vex, as they can pass through blocks. The most common warrior among the Pillagers is the Vindicator. While he is not fighting but just resting in the mansion, you can hear a sound from him that he says just like that. Listen to this phrase. It is pronounced quite firmly and confidently, so the sound can be translated as stay away. The Vindicator will say something like this to the player if he is nearby. He also participates in the raid. There are 2 victory phrases that the Vindicator says, and here is the first and the second. They are basically the same, sounding with joy, so they can be translated simply as it was easy. If you start a battle with the Vindicator, you will definitely hear the sounds of taking damage, and here's how they sound. They can be briefly translated as fight, like keep fighting, because the Vindicators are tough warriors who will not scream and cry on the battlefield. The sound of the Vindicator's death is no different from the sounds of other ordinary pillagers, and it sounds like this. It can be simply translated as you won. The pillager acknowledges his defeat with honor. You are watching this video without a subscription. Please fix this. Among the pillagers in the army, there are such bulls who surprisingly speak in their own language, of course. They also roar as they should, but their phrases can also be analyzed. When doing nothing, the bull makes as many as 8 sounds. This is a record. The first 4 sounds are approximately like this. What do you want? Or do you want death? The huge Ravager looks at our player and says this, probably feeling his superiority. Sounds 5 and 6, he says, yawning, probably from boredom. Here they are. I will remind you that the Ravager appears only during the raid, where there is constant fighting. He almost never says these phrases in the usual Minecraft. Only if the raid has passed and the Ravager remains, then he will probably get bored. Sound number 7 is just the bull's breathing. There is nothing unique there. But sound number 8 contains a phrase. Opening his mouth, the Ravager says something, and here is the sound itself. This can be translated as, I want to eat. We know that the main combat tactic of the Ravager is to bite his victim. If you start a battle with the bull, inflicting damage on him, such sounds will be made. The player hits the metal parts of the armor, after which the Ravager roars something like, it doesn't hurt me, or keep fighting. This is still a huge, tough warrior, the strongest and most durable among all pillagers. If his attacks are blocked with a shield for a long time, a roar is issued that strongly repels the player. There are a total of 4 roar sounds. The first 2 are very similar. They can be translated as fight honestly. In fact, the shield against the Ravager is a harsh cheat, because with its help, you can kill the bull without taking damage. Otherwise, without a shield in close combat, he will kill you. You can only fight in long-range combat. The remaining 2 sounds when blocking sound like this. They can be translated as remove your shield. Moreover, on these sounds, the bull is even more furious from injustice. The Ravager can be stunned in this way. For some time he is in a stupor, and during the stun, he makes such sounds. What is this with me? And everything around is spinning. I think this is more suitable here. When the Ravager attacks someone, he makes a sound of biting with his mouth. At the same time, he manages to say something. Here are these sounds. caught you," or "Come here." This translation is more suitable here, as it is noticed that the Ravager's attacks pull the victim towards the bull. He bites and pulls towards himself. Many will be surprised, but the Ravager also rejoices in the destruction of the village, and here are the sounds of celebrating the victory. If the first sound can be translated as "the village is destroyed," then for the second phrase, "who would doubt our strength," may be suitable. And this sound is long with maximum mockery and superiority. During death, the Ravager makes several sounds. "We will meet again," the Ravager says with a roar, and leaves this world. This concludes the analysis of the Pillager language. Rate the theory with a like if you liked it, and also write your translations in the comments if you disagree with mine. I read all the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss more of my theories. Support with a donation. The link is in the description.